Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets Open Day France Week. Skylar here, solo edition. Tom Jacobs is off here in Las Vegas getting married. Shout out to him and his soon-to-be wife, Shannon, as they're getting married in style here in the States. So super excited for them. Our friend Ryan Baroff, a little busy on a Monday, so you're getting solo me for an off week on the PGA Tour, a pre-Ryder Cup week, which features obviously zero of the Ryder Cup players as they all made their way to Bethpage after the BMW PGA Championship last week, won by assistant captain Alex Noren. Kind of crazy, right? In the sense of, potentially worthy of a captain selection, yet the player he probably would have been selected over qualified via DP World Tour results from 2024. Right? Rasmus Højgaard was the one who snuck into that last spot, earned it based off of his play primarily from 2024. If Luke Donald was faced with a decision on who would he rather have, I think the answer is probably pretty obvious of Alex Noren based off of his two recent wins, another top 10 mixed in after basically being irrelevant the entire 2025 because of injury, right? So to see him back kind of playing at close to levels of his peak right now is pretty wild for Noren. So very happy for him from a betting perspective. Really wasn't meant to be. Siwoo Kim snuck out a top 5 on my card last week. Fitz hung around for Tom. It was just kind of put off early on Thursday, sadly. These guys, Siwoo came out slow, even though it's the second time around Wentworth. Ryan Gerard finished pretty bad, yet came alive on Friday. If guys would have played maybe better than average on Thursday, I really thought we would have seen Siwoo really mix in for a win. Obviously, Hovland almost ran away with it Saturday and then was nowhere near it on Sunday. Justin Rose, the same. I felt very confident in him Saturday teeing it up inside the top 5. And, he's +4 through the first, 5 holes. And just really had done away any good that he had in the first 2 rounds. So disappointing in that side from a betting perspective. The U.S. side looks really, really good at the pro course. Scotty Scheffler, of course, won for his 6th time on the PGA Tour this season. Ben Griffin, 3 putts on 18. I'm really curious on the Griffin standpoint if that would hang him up, heading into the Ryder Cup, being like, man, had my chance to take down Scheffler for the 2nd time this season and didn't come through with it. I don't know. Hopefully it's just more of, for his perspective, I like Ben Griffin, just takes it in stride and is one of the better U.S. players this year if he gets the opportunity to tee it up quite a bit, which I think he should. But this is a pre-Ryder Cup show. This is an Open Day France show. The only thing not typical about the Open Day France is the venue this week. Unfortunately, they aren't at Les Golf National, one of my favorite stops that they play at. We are at Golf des Saints-Dames-la-Bretache. Hopefully that was a pretty good pronunciation. Problem is, not much information on the course. Has not been played in over 2 decades on the DP World Tour. Used to host an annual event. And then from my research was also hosting a type of match play event. I think it was a Seve trophy that they were holding here. There was 2 people with experience at this course in the field. Nico Colsaerts and Darren Fickert. Darren Fickert actually is off of the top 5 at Wentworth, which is pretty amazing because it was better than his form on the Legends Tour. But I'm kind of going into this week with an open mind. There is 2 18-hole courses here. From my early research, did not distinguish which one, if it's a composite, if they're going one or the other. Right now, it's under 7,000 yards, par 71. But based off of my research, did seem like it was kind of tree-lined course, either direction where, not to say power can't play. We have a 541-yard par 5, a 547, a 509. So probably pretty reachable for almost everybody in the field. And then from a par 4 perspective, I saw 3 on the front 9 that were under 400, 399, 369, 363. And then on the back 9, they opened with one at 364. So I don't know. A couple weeks ago, we had this kind of same thought process when we were looking at the Denmark course that actually played a little bit harder than I anticipated because of the length and unknown knowledge of the course. So to me, I'm kind of approaching it pretty typical. The one weird thing that they do have is a closing par 3 that's over 200 yards. You normally get that par 5 close. So the fact that right now it's scheduled to play as a par 3 closing hole is pretty wild. Kind of like that, actually. Put some pressure on that tee shot and going to be hard to score if it's going to be a longer par 3. So we do have from a field perspective an odd one. Because if you look at the top of the board, Harry Hall and Corey Conners are the clear 1-2 on the odds board. I'm recording this early on Monday. So we're looking at 10-1 for Harry Hall, 11-1 for Corey Conners, and then a gap up until Minwoo, Jordan Smith, and Michael Kim, all 22-1 or less. Minwoo's at 20. So a weird card in the sense of it's not led by typical DP World Tour players, right? Until you get to Jordan Smith at 22-1. It's not guys that we're typically betting or having on the DP World Tour. And then beyond that, Aora, Sadier, Wrighton are the other sub 30-1 players. And then you get the mix of PGA Tour, yet grown-up European Tour players of Thomas Dietrich, Victor Perez, Ryan Fox. If I look at that group as a whole, I'm not sitting here mega impressed. I mean, I loved betting Aora last week at triple digits, 100-1 plus for him, felt really good. Sadier was the one I felt very frustrated on not betting, in the sense of Tom and I love to look through 36-hole leaders, 54-hole leaders who struggled on Sunday and fell down the leaderboard. Basically, Sadier had done that 2 weeks in a row. And then you get him still at a decent price in a stronger field. That's kind of when we like to strike. And Sadier, despite Sunday kind of historically never really going his way, he was right there in the mix with Noren. Obviously had a 15-foot birdie putt on 18 to win, lost in the playoff. But 28-1 is deserving. Is it screaming, I need to bet it? To me, no. The one that I'm going to see as my card rounds out that I'm kind of intrigued at betting would be Minwoo Lee. Minwoo, you just look at Minwoo versus the other guys up here. I think at his peak, I take him, right? I mean, we've seen him obviously do well in major championships earlier on in his career. 2023 was really strong for him. But basically irrelevant since his win at Houston, right? Where he just bombed it and putted it. Is this course going to be bomb and putt? I doubt it. It could be short game driven though. But I was very impressed by his T11 last week at Wentworth, which is another course that is not a just let it rip and putt well. His Sunday was spectacular. I think he shot a 6 under with a double bogey on 17, lit up the par 4s on Sunday. Just a lot of encouraging signs for if you zoomed out and we had no form on players, not much going in. Is it worth double the odds from Harry Hall or Corey Conners? I don't feel that way, so it's tough because of the form perspective. Now, Michael Kim versus Minwoo Lee, right? We weren't even having that discussion come earlier on in the year. I mean, I guess Kim, in March was phenomenal, but Kim and Conners missing the cut with really good round 2s at Wentworth on their debut. That's kind of the recipe there. I would be interested in both of them, 12 months from now when we look at that Wentworth opportunity again. But I don't think it's a windmill of anybody at the top for me. I'm kind of confirming my selection there. When I look at the rest of the board in this mid-range, now in typical Skylar fashion, I'm not really locked into anybody until 80s. Yeah, I would say 80-1 where I feel like very confident in ripping a few selections. Dan Brown's here at 35, Cantor's 40, Perry, Moeller, Rosner, and then the gap to 50-1 really gets kicked off with Brooks. And if I'm really talking through a lot of these guys, I mean, Daniel Brown is super polar tail outcome, miscut T3, miscut T4. There's just a lot in his upside. I think I really like him hopefully at a bigger number at the Dunhill Links in a couple of weeks. So to me, I mean, he had that green room after his missed cut and was like, I felt so good Tuesday, Wednesday, and showed up at the course Thursday and felt uncomfortable over the ball all day long. And obviously the results kind of reflected that. So I'd be more willing to write it off. I just don't think I'm team Dan Brown at 35-1 personally. Perry has continued to have a really good, stretch of golf since the Open Championship. Brooks just looks like somebody who doesn't want to golf anymore. I'm shocked he wants to keep playing here. I mean, what realistically, if I look up Brooks, right, he missed the cut last week. He missed it on the number? What has he really done outside the T12 at the U.S. Open? Nothing. All year long. I mean, he was T10 at the Alfred Dunhill last year. No, I mean, it's pretty putrid. No interest for me there. Now, we also should be getting hopefully decent DraftKings contest. No PGA Tour. Obviously, football is going here in the States. So, but we saw a 50K to first that didn't fill for the Irish Open, I believe it was. But we had 20K the next week. Hopefully we can get something in the middle of that, maybe a 25, 30 up there. Hopefully we can fill it because the PGA Tour stuff filled great last week. So talking through a little bit more golfers on the card overall, that could draw some interest for me. But if I'm like having on a short list, I really didn't get to anybody on my short list outside of Minwoo at 20 until we get to 80-1. And there's two golfers at 80-1 that I thought were quite enticing. One, for sure, betting Dan Bradbury. So Dan Bradbury, winner of this event last year at this time, obviously was at Le Golf National, but Bradbury is starting to show that life that I love in him. I bet him at Wentworth at 400-1 last week, built based on the iron play throughout the last month. Continued those irons. He finished T31, but again, if you look at the way he played, that's just kind of Bradbury fashion. 6 under on Sunday, and then you look at 1 under on Saturday, 4 under on Friday, and then was over par on Thursday. Just kind of sporadic 18-hole jumps for him. That's Bradbury. But can you put it all together? Obviously, in the country that he just had won at last year. If you look at his iron play last week, so again, there could be some differing stats in the sense of DP World Tour versus IMG data. But if I look at our approach, I kind of lean IMG just because of a laser perspective. We had Bradbury 7th in strokes gained approach last week overall, Sunday being first. He was first, Rory was second, and then maybe over a stroke until you get to somebody in third, which was Adam Scott. So I think Bradbury is close to a huge breakthrough. 80-1 feels super strong for me on him there. So he's the first one. And then the second one, unfortunately, I don't think he got into Wentworth, which is super shocking based off of his year, and something that I think the DP World Tour is definitely looking into on how to make sure some of their better players are getting starts at their flagship events. But it's Jacob Skov-Olsen, right? Skov-Olsen comes off an 8th at the Irish Open. The best finish for him since his 3rd at the Nexo, which came directly after his first round lead at the Open Championship. Now, the thing about Olsen, even in those missed cuts, the Omega, he was still really good with the irons, was terrible putting. I think he missed the cut by 2 strokes there. The British Masters, which I thought was a decent one with him, at a tighter kind of belfry. He was +3 there, so missed the cut by 2 strokes or 3 strokes as well. But Olsen now has gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 10s since becoming a full-time member. And then we look at Turkish Airlines, Magical Kenya Open also this year, 2 top 15s. So he's had the upside in his play. So I think from a standpoint of you get him in a weaker field, you get him coming off of good form, and the course that I should like him more at versus a bigger ballpark. He's not somebody that's going to beat it down from a power standpoint. He's just kind of a scrappy player. I think irons and a flip with a putter is what, is putting his really strong form into play. So for me, I'm pretty big on Olsen at 80-1. So those two would be the start of the card for me. If I keep going down, guys that stood out to me, Tom Valiant. He was 90-1 this week, first round leader at Wentworth. He'd kind of strung together some decent form. If I look, you saw him 24th at the British Masters, 17th at Omega, and then first round lead at Wentworth, a big step up, right? T31 finish there, but that was his best kind of stretch of golf since we basically saw him a year ago, right? When he's first, September and October of last year, Alfred Dunhill Links get a top 10. Valiant was really good iron play at the Irish Open. He ended up being in total for iron play last week. Let's see. Valiant was third. I'm pretty encouraged by that at Wentworth, for him against the entire DP World Tour Ryder Cup team. So 90-1, I'm pretty confident in that selection there. Next up, if I go into the triple digits, I'm just cycling through golfers, but guys that are standing out to me. So if you look at who I thought was probably the standout bet at the Irish Open, I was off that week, but I saw Ben Coley and Niall Lyons had both put him up. Mikkel Lindberg. Lindberg, 4 straight made cuts for him. T4 at the Danish, T27 at the British Masters, T13 Omega, 37th in Ireland. He is able to separate via off the tee, into a stratosphere that not many can on the DP World Tour. He's averaging 10, 15, almost 20 yards better than distance in some events than field average. Putrid golf, honestly, up until the Danish Golf Championship. He had 1 T24 on the year. Other than that, horrific. But he's now strung together 4 straight good events. Irish Open, he opened with a 69 before, 75, 73, then closed 68. He was 300-1 there, at a decently strong event. Triple digits for him. Now, of course, I don't know the setup for him this week. I don't think it's phenomenal. Yet he also was doing a ton of work at tighter courses. The Belfry, I thought, was pretty impressive for him. T27 there with a 67 on Friday. The Danish Golf Championship wasn't a course that was, I guess Penge did win. Rasmus was up there, but it didn't seem like a course where I thought it was power only. So I was pretty impressed by the way he went about things there. It's just screaming a pop in a weaker field, in my opinion. So at 100-1, I'm super into Mikkel Lindberg as well. I know I'm just loading up my card kind of deeper down in this range, but I just think it's the way to go about things in a field that I have question marks at the top. So we had, let's see, Lindberg next up. I thought Clement Sordet kind of popped a little bit. I think I bet him at a deep number recently, but 15th, the Irish Open, 33rd, prior to that Italian Open, T5. He wasn't in Wentworth, but he's throwing decent stats out there as a whole. Just kind of a, 32-year-old, I don't want to say journeyman because he's still kind of younger in his career, but good putters and putting well for 2.5, 3 months. Off the tees coming along a lot more. And then approach numbers are middling, which seems like if he has that recipe with his short game, he can play. I don't think it's worth the outright for me versus some of the other guys that I like a little bit more. It's been since 2017, I think he has a career victory. I say that. I guess Lindberg won last year on the Challenge Tour. Sordet had won on the Challenge Tour in 2022. But he at least caught my eye enough on a short list. The other one at this number, which I'm for sure betting, we get to 110-1. 3 guys I want to talk about. Potentially all 3 on the betting card here. Guido Migliozzi. Come on now. Guido is showing all of the signs that we'd want to see. An amazing round 3 to vault him up the leaderboard. Finishes T24 at Wentworth. But if you look at his overall, we see him 66 with a double on 17. legitimately could have been top 5 going into Sunday if he just birdied a easy par 5. He was OB off the tee, but his approach was back, and that was the fear prior that Guido had kind of lost his approach. It was really short game driven. He was 5th in the event on strokes gained approach. I mean, Guido won just like Bradbury at Le Golf National before, kind of one of his most thrilling wins of his career, right? I mean, Guido was peak in that Sunday round for him. And I mean, this is a little bit of stretch of him showing some life. T13 out of, I wouldn't say nowhere, but not much form prior to that at Omega. T41 at the British Masters, where I think, Sunday 69 for him. But none of this had iron play. Now he's got the iron play with it. Of course, the win in France, I love too, but I think we're getting a number on Guido, and he is really close to breaking back through. So 110-1, locking him in. Then the other two, I'll rate by who I like more. Casey Jarvis. So Casey Jarvis, I think, was the talk of the town. Right? He's only 22 years old. But when he kind of made his hay coming up from the Challenge Tour and kind of our name, I mean, based off one of the better amateur careers that we have seen out of South Africa, of course, a lot of these guys turn into big-time players. So we were very excited for him to get onto the DP World Tour so quickly. Was in the mix, I think, in his first ever event on the DP World Tour, the one that Bradbury had won. He was T9 that week. And I think 36 hole, he was second there. But he's starting to show some signs. T20 in Ireland prior to this, Omega T41, 13th at the Nexo Championship. So, basically a mediocre at best year, has started to rally. What Casey Jarvis does is score. I think he was top 5 in birdies last week, despite finishing T38. 5 under on Sunday, opened up with a 65, which I think had him the top 5 after the first round at Wentworth. So again, a step up in competition, and he's showing up. I think it's a good sign, especially when you can score, man. I love to bet guys who are showing birdie upside without coming through on the scoring or on the actual finish, because to me, it's just showing that their ceilings are right there if they can clean it up a little bit. Jarvis's kind of play from an iron level wasn't there. That's the fear I have with him, right? Among the bottom of players who made the cut on iron play, Sunday was better for him. I think he just had some really bad rounds, kind of in the middle when it came to his iron play. Yeah, he was dead last on Friday. On Saturday, he was okay. So it really was bottomed out by that Friday performance. If I look at his Friday, 2 over 74, included an eagle on 12. So again, just showing upside, but just not consistency. I think at the number, it's pretty intriguing for me for a player that I still think pretty highly of from a raw talent perspective. So he was one, and then David Rivetto was the other. Rivetto, a Frenchman, finished T61 at Wentworth last week. Like Jarvis, birdies, yet couldn't string anything together, right? Fresh off a T15 at the Irish Open with really good ball striking. Now, Rivetto, from an iron standpoint, was positive on the week. Again, nothing like crazy good. Let me see where he ended up ranking-wise. 30th. Pretty encouraged, actually. Probably more enticing than Jarvis, actually, now that I think through this. Jarvis lost... Let's see. Jarvis lost 4.3 strokes with his iron play last week. So I guess if you're thinking through how did they score? I mean, Jarvis was second in strokes gained putting last week. Rivetto 58th. Just from a repeatable standpoint, Rivetto would be then going into back-to-back weeks of really good ball striking. Now Rivetto, I think it was last year, won the Czech Masters. So showed that he can, play. He was pretty dang good on the Challenge Tour before getting that promotion for him. But I think he was a Q School guy. Same year Guido and those guys came out. Potentially, I'm trying to see how he got. I think he just battled through the Challenge Tour, actually. But just an overall solid, not crazy exciting player, but think it was really, really good from that standpoint. So I think 110s for him super intriguing. And then the last player that I had on my short list was Adrian Otaegwe. So Adrian, let's pull up his profile here. Comes off of Wentworth T13. Pretty good for a player like him with a year like he's had. I mean, you have to go all the way to April to have a better finish. He has not finished inside the top 55, honestly, since April. Now, we loved him back into, the Belgian knockout days when he was, a prolific type of match play player. I really felt confident in him when he was going head-to-head against guys on shorter courses. And it's a little appealing that this course used to host some of the match play events. Maybe it kind of opened up to a lot of styles. But he was a winner last year on the DP World Tour, won in China. It's not somebody who, this year has been bad. This year's been a huge drop off from what he was. But to me, he's still, Wentworth T13, if you look at the numbers for him, right? So if you see how he putted, let's start with how he putted. Worse than field average. How did he chip? Now, he was always kind of like a short game guy to me. Let's see. 24th was pretty dynamite around the greens. And then from an irons perspective, he was 11th, Now, he had always been a really good Le Golf National player. Let me double check this form here. French Open. He finished, 1, 2, 3, 4 top 20s in the last 6 years for him. Now, again, different course, but just enough that last week's performance kind of just sticks with me from how strong of a player he really has been in his career. He's only 32 years old. Just for, if you look through the top guys up here, Fickert was a weird one. But other than that, there wasn't many oddballs in the top 20. You could say Ewan Ferguson, but obviously he's a strong player on the DP World Tour side, just kind of was out of form. Other than that, you go, Noren Sadie. These guys are incredible players. Kuvra, T13, now back in his home country, but you'd have to literally go to T24 Sean Crocker to see kind of an oddball. I wish Sean Crocker was playing. He's getting married this week. Him and Tom both married in the same week. But there wasn't many oddballs at the top of the BMW Championship leaderboard. So Otaegwe just caught my eye immensely when it came to those guys in recent form. So, and then again, I just trust him when it comes to a contention standpoint. So we're at almost 30 minutes here. I'm going to close it out. We're going to give a shout out to all of our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, Mayo Media Network. Rate, review, subscribe. It goes a long way for myself, Tom, Baroff, who comes on the show. We're super appreciative. And then Pat, obviously with full swing football going on, getting some DP World Tour love. It's always helpful for us. We really appreciate the comments on YouTube and all the Twitter interactions. They go a really long way for all of us. So if we looked at kind of forecasting what the schedule for us is probably looking like here. So Ryder Cup, I don't think we probably do anything because we're really betting focused, but excited obviously for that event. Then we'll get Alfred Dunhill Links coming back. And if I had to ballpark, we're probably going to be taking a little bit of a break in October. And then looking at the Dubai events, or Abu Dhabi, and then Dubai events to do a couple November shows. And then we'll have kind of my favorite show of the year, the preview of all of the graduates from the Hotel Planner Challenge Tour and Q School, and also the Order of Merit winners from the other tours. We'll preview that with a mega show in November before we kick off the 25-26 season, and then be back at it in January is kind of how we're planning. Because there's conflicts still with the PGA Tour schedule, so DFS won't be that big in October. So I think overall that's kind of where we're looking at. We should have a strong Alfred Dunhill, and then from there we'll have the break into the playoffs. The schedule did come out too for anyone looking on the European Tour for next year. It's up on their site too, and they tweeted it out. So we'll be looking through that. But I will go through my betting card here to kind of close us out. I'm going to pass at Minwoo Lee at the top. I'm okay kind of landing where we are here in this mid-range. 80-1 Dan Bradbury first up here for us. And then we'll go into 80-1 Jacob Skov-Olesen. I just love his upside still. 90-1 Tom Valiant. I think, again, based on that first round lead last week, I think he's got a ton to play. I'm still big into the form that we're seeing out of Mikkel Lindberg at 100-1, and who knows from an unknown course perspective what we could really be looking at there. And then Guido Migliozzi, locking him in at 110-1 fifth. And I'm going to lean at the bigger price for over Rivetto and Jarvis. I'm going to lean Adrian Otagwe at 150-1 for my final selection there, rounding us out with 6 golfers overall. Again, you can find me on Twitter at SkyhookDFS. Super appreciative of all the love. Please continue to reach out, and hopefully we can have a big winner. And then Ryder Cup, man, all the juices will be flowing at Bethpage. I'm super excited for that event coming up here, but let's hit a big one at the Open de France. Good luck, everybody, and we'll catch you soon. Take care.